All right, my friends, it's all come down to this. Stay put for the epic conclusion to our Spreadsheets mini-series. Let's get hacking. What's up, everyone? James with Microvelum here again, and welcome back to Wood Hacks. I'm so stoked to wrap up our mini-series on spreadsheets, and I appreciate y'all sticking around and grinding through this beast with me. But we're not finished yet, so let's just keep on trucking. If you recall, in the previous episode, we talked about Workbook Designer. Well, in this episode, we'll learn about the other ways you can access Workbook Designer and why you'd access them using these different methods. So let's go ahead and get things going and close this thing up. All right, here we are back in Toolbox. The first method of accessing Workbook Designer that we'll discuss is through the Specification Groups. You can access it in both the library and project specification group interfaces. For the sake of learning and development, I recommend accessing it through the project specification groups. This will give you some protection so you don't accidentally corrupt your production data. Before launching Workbook Designer, you'll want to take a minute just to verify your spec groups and their assigned components. You'll also want to verify which spec group you have selected, indicated by the big green check mark. After a quick verification, you can access Workbook Designer by clicking on the icon in the top left corner. By default, it will load a local workbook to help minimize ref errors. In many cases, ref errors occur when a formula is looking to a workbook that isn't loaded. If it can't find the workbook, it can't find the reference, and so you get an error. Accessing Workbook Designer through the Spec Groups interface is typically done when someone is looking to modify the Project Wizard workbook or the prompts tabs for the M, E, and H workbooks, which are the worksheets for material, edgeband, and hardware files that typically drive formula materials and other material selections. You'd also likely use it to reverse engineer formulas in the Project Wizard or global variables that will affect your project or your library if working at the library level. Again, if you plan on making changes to your library level workbooks, I highly recommend doing things first at the project level so you can test everything. The second way to access Workbook Designer is through Database Explorer, which can be found under Toolbox Setup, Options, Utilities, or you can type MV Database Explorer in your command line. Database Explorer is the quickest down and dirty way to access your library data. To give a quick explanation of Database Explorer, the left column contains your Microvelum factory database. By expanding the database, you'll see the room components directory and the library directory. The options menu at the top will allow you to load projects or other directories as well. The other two columns allow you to browse through your computer directories. You can add, delete, rename, and open files and folders in the far right column. I'll talk more about this in a little bit. Back to the left column, by expanding the directory, you can drill down to access the individual files. With a file selected, you can simply double-click to open the workbook. It will load the workbooks from the default spec group. This way, you can still reverse engineer formulas if need be. Again, just to reiterate and remind, this is your library data. Changes made and saved here are saved back to your library. So, like other areas of Microvelum, this should be accessed by experienced users who are responsible for developing and maintaining your company library. The last method of opening Workbook Designer is by using the standalone application, similar to what we just saw. Back in Database Explorer, I'm going to browse to a folder where I can export some products. In the left column, I'm just going to select and drag the base cabinets folder over to the far right column. This will extract the files from the database and save a hard copy into this folder. FYI, this is another way you can create a backup of your library or specific products. Dragging the files the other direction will import them into your database. If you want to know more about Database Explorer and working within it, I'd recommend getting some additional training. With the files extracted, the easiest way to launch Workbook Designer is to double-click. Now, if you suspect you're going to use the standalone app frequently, I'd recommend pinning it to your taskbar. Using the Standalone App, you can browse to your folder directory using Windows Explorer and open multiple files. Using it this way allows you to jump between the different files quickly and make modifications easily. Once the changes have been saved, you can use Database Explorer again to drag and import them into your library. With the improvements to Library Designer over the years, I see more companies use this more for a method of backing up rather than development, but it's still an option. And there you go, all the other ways to access Workbook Designer. There are so many ways you can do things in Microvellum. It's really just a matter of what's most comfortable for you. Again, much of this requires a greater understanding of Microvellum's capabilities through the spreadsheets, and getting proper training on all of this would be a great idea. And boom, that will conclude this mini-series on spreadsheets. I hope y'all are learning new things and feeling more comfortable working within the spreadsheet. As I've stated before, power users are created in the spreadsheet. Once you realize everything you can do in here, the more you realize the full potential of Microvellum. The possibilities are endless. So learn, experiment, and see just how far you can take this. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay sharp, stay focused, and stay awesome. It's all come down to this. Stay put for the epic conclusion to our Spreadsheets mini-series. Let's get hacking. And I like that. Too much. Enunciate. What's up, everyone? James with Microvellum here again, and welcome back to Wood Hacks. I'm so stoked to wrap up our, I don't like what I did with my eye there. What am I doing? If it can't find the workbook, it can't find the error. Son of a biscuit eater. Accessing Workbook Designer through the Spec Groups interface is typically done when someone is looking to modify the project lizard. I highly recommend doing things first at the project level so you don't screw everything up like I'm doing.